Bitcoin and the altcoin markets are starting to bleed off. What is the reason behind it? Is it ETF flows? Is it what's happening globally? Is it the dollar index? We'll discuss that. And where will the price finally settle? Do we have more downside to go? We have Forrest joining us to go over the charts. And we also have some Solana news. Massive amounts of Ethereum are leaving the exchanges as people prepare for the Ethereum spot ETF. Are we going to see a massive rally in Ethereum soon? Also, Larry Fink spent 2 minutes completely crapping on the current financial system. This man is more bullish than we are on crypto, blockchain, and what we're going to do in the world of finance. We'll talk about what he said and how this is going to translate into gains for you watching. With that being said, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's not waste any time. Let's get going.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, we're the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel. We take old, boring, stale information, repackage that whole thing up in a fun and sexy way. Bitcoin has taken a turn for the worst. It's down to 65. Will the support hold? Or will we go down to $12,000 like some other analysts have predicted a long time ago and are still holding their guns to that number for some weird reason? But
some have said 7,000.
Is it even possible for Bitcoin to drop under 30K anymore?
I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. Yes.
I mean, barring a catastrophe, I think I think even globally, geopolitical issues, I just don't see a situation where Bitcoin drops under 30K anymore, unless it's protocol level, some kind of exploit on Bitcoin. I just think that there's just too much buyers, and you know what? There's smart money playing with Bitcoin markets with the ETFs. So
I don't even know if it'll get past 40K, right? You see dip to 40. I don't think people are going to sit on the sidelines like, oh, 30's next. Like you watch Bitcoin go from 70 to 40, you're a buyer. We do have Forrest joining us. We didn't have him last Friday, and it just didn't feel right. You know, a week is not complete without Forrest. And so he's joining us today. Forrest, welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
We miss you, man.
Pleasure.
You left us last week.
It's been a minute.
Just kidding. Welcome back, my friend. Did you get that video I asked you for?
Video. Dance moves? No, I did not.
Fair enough. We'll get it one.
I'm sorry.
We'll get it one. Forrest, before we jump into charts or news, what's your overall thoughts and sentiment on the market currently and price action? I know you've been pretty bullish on the markets over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 days or so. Kind of posting things on Twitter, X, and I know you're back to doing some of your YouTube videos, but what's your overall sentiment? What's your take on what we're seeing in the market currently?
So I remain bullish and have been bullish throughout this entire Bitcoin consolidation, basically from $59,000 all the way up to the range highs over $70,000. I think this is one big accumulation, and I think we are going higher from here. That's just my personal opinion. Nothing in the charts yet to necessarily make me freak out or panic. And we are post-halving. This is kind of normal. You see us range for like 75 to 100 days post-halving before taking off usually. So, nothing to be alarmed about. It's just, it's chop is never fun. It's never fun to see the Bitcoin do this and watch stocks rip. I remain bullish.
It's all par for the course, right? You take a look at historically what Bitcoin has done post-halving, and it's almost identical. Not 100% identical, but it's pretty damn close. Well, what about you, Rob? What are your thoughts on the sentiment currently in the market, what we're seeing? And maybe is there something you can point your finger to and say, hey, this is why potentially maybe Bitcoin's going down?
I think this is just a natural market move, as both of you kind of alluded to. We did see quite a significant early run on Bitcoin. We saw that it got that surge of liquidity and the new market, which was the stock exchange through the ETF, which we saw new all-time highs get broke. They're relatively shortly after the ETFs went live. And so through the success of the ETFs, which brought in the liquidity, we saw the market rally, and now we're seeing a pullback, right? And if we're gonna get into that parabolic run up post halving that we've seen every 4 years out of Bitcoin, well, that is to come later in the year. If you were just to look at a historical chart, we would expect this somewhere between September and December, right? And it does vary a little bit from cycle to cycle, but that would be the expectations of where it would land. Now, is this really a pullback or a crash? I mean, is this really like a crash or a massive sell-off? No. I mean, if you think about it, or if you take a look just on the 1 month, we're right where we were. It's not like we made some massive support above 70K, held it for a month. Now we lost it. I mean, look on the 1 month here. I mean, we were at 65,000 30 days ago. We're there again today. And how long did we spend over 70K? Well, you had 1 day in last month there, and then you had two to you had basically almost a week, like 5 days later. It was about 2 weeks ago. So if you look on a 1 month, we spent 1 day over 70K, and then about 4 or 5 days over 70K over the course of 30 days. And so for me, not anything surprising, not any like shocking move. If we did see Bitcoin drop down to say 60,000 or 59, then I'd be a little concerned here, because the last time we went down and tested 59 was back in, was it May 2nd, right? And so that little correction there, I would be a little bit more concerned there. But anyways.
Now I want to share this from Rec Capital. Excuse me. Historically, this is on your left-hand side of your screen, is Bitcoin's price action in 2020, and that vertical blue line right here is the halving, right? Rally into the halving, consolidation, right? A little bit of a rise up, dip, consolidate, and then we see the move. Well, where we are currently to the right here, blue line, halving, a little bit of a rally going in, a little bit of a spill off, the rally, chop, 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 and then we should start seeing a rally again. Again, zoom out, see what has happened historically. What is Bitcoin doing? And it's all par for the course. It's just, people like to panic when the price starts to go down. But hey, we don't panic here. We just look at these as buying opportunities.
Yeah, and if you look at Bitcoin's price, it's down 2%, right? But kind of the thing that's catching a lot of people by surprise is how red the altcoin markets are. Or for us, it's not a surprise. You see a drawdown 2 to 3% on Bitcoin. Obviously, a lot more overreaction in the altcoins. Of course, why? Smaller market cap, more leverage there. And taking a look, I mean, you got Stacks down 12%. I know we're going to talk about this a little later, but we do have an outage there off of the Stacks blockchain. So we'll go into that in a moment. So maybe there's a little bit more to that. But at its core, there's been a lot of proxy movement off of Stacks. Obviously, if Bitcoin draws down, Stacks operates layer 2 on Bitcoin. And so one goes down, you expect Stacks to also sell off as well. But they're at the protocol level, there is some things in question. Injective, a lot of volatility in this project as of lately, down 11%. You have the meme coins down pretty heavy today as well. Pepe, Brett, Bonk. And then Fetch AI and Near Protocol, some of these AI plays are down. Now, these stand out as some big losses on the week. So if you're a fan of these AI protocols, or you're a fan of Near is a layer 1 that has a focus on AI, I would maybe look at these as buying opportunities, especially if you have money on the side, say you DCA, perhaps maybe take a look at pulling the trigger on this Singularity Net here as well. So AI projects losing a little steam, meme coins are down as expected. I would expect a big bounce back on these memes. They have rallied pretty heavily when Bitcoin turns around. So if we see Bitcoin get up to 70K, wouldn't be surprised to see 70% moves on these meme coins. At least that's what the short-term history has told us. And then fans of AI, do you think that AI is taking a breather? You think it's going to take this sector? Because it rallied so hard, right?
I don't think so. I mean, look at the news you just got from Apple, right? Apple,
Yeah.
OpenAI. We know a lot of companies and ICPs working on decentralized AI. You have Jack Dorsey working on that as well. Some of the brightest minds in not just our space, but just globally. AI is something that is not going away. It's
You
only
know,
going to get bigger and better.
you know what was interesting was the last cycle's metaverse, right? Because this AI thing feels very reminiscent because when the metaverse was popping off, I kept questioning. I'm like, all right, has it lost its steam? Has it lost its steam? And he just kept rallying and kept going, right? Decentraland, I don't remember what the price was on that thing, but it 10x'd and then just kept moving, kept going. Sandbox, and then right when you thought it was kind of running out of steam, that's when Facebook or Meta changed their name to that exactly, from Facebook to Meta, and it just kept the markets going. I think that we're going to see something very similar. So I do agree with you, David. I do believe that AI might be taking a pullback, but I think that's just such an emerging industry that has so much new money in it, and people are expecting big things coming from AI. They're kind of on pins and needles, waiting for the next AI product. You know, you got Sora coming out with video AI, so pretty exciting. I think that I will not discount, I will not short the AI sector. I think that there is more to come. Maybe it's just a breather, or maybe a month downturn, maybe cool off a little bit.
What are your thoughts, Forrest, on the AI sector? Kind of what we're discussing here. Do you think this still has legs? Do you think there's still some opportunity to catch some AI plays and make some money?
Well, look, if Bitcoin goes up and the rest of the crypto market goes up, there's definitely going to be some rotations into AI. It's not a trade that I'm personally looking to take advantage of. Maybe if I see some good AI coins, and the charts look good for breakouts, I'll take some stabs at them. But there's not any projects right now that are like making me really want to FOMO in the AI sector. I'm pretty dead set on just like 2 or 3 trades in all of crypto right now, and just hyper focused on those.
Hey, Forrest, what are you more bullish on this cycle, AI or RWA? Which narrative are you more bullish on?
Probably RWA, but again, that like RWA isn't something that I'm really leaning heavily into. I think it kind of plays into one of the trades that I like this market cycle, and that's like the ETH ETF. I think that's a really good trade right now, and RWA is a big narrative on ETH with BlackRock. But yeah, I think AI and RWA, like they're attractive narratives to play into on any sort of breakout, and I'll probably take stabs at individual coins if I see good charts, but they're not something that I'm like building a portfolio around or anything.
Some people are trying to, wishfully think Bitcoin up, and Donald Trump is not, he's also one of them. And live look at Donald Trump trying to get Bitcoin's price to go up.
You can do it, baby. I love you so much. And it's bad news. Bad things are happening. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I didn't do it.
Make fun of Joe Biden all the time.
Where in the deep dark recesses of Twitter are you finding this stuff, man?
I'm a Twitter degen. I'm a meme degen and a Twitter degen as well.
Speaking of Twitter, do we get our account back?
It's back. Passwords changed. Ashley's fired.
Oh,
yeah. Twitter. Hi, Ashley. Hi. Yeah. We got a lot to talk about after the show today. Yeah. You just sit there. Yeah. Anyways, if you're new here, say hello. If you're coming in from our upload video this morning, drop an hola in the chat. We'd love to personally welcome you.
Yeah, we have almost about 200 people or right at 200 people watching, and we only got 40 likes, so about a 20% like ratio. That is unacceptable.
It's terrible.
I call on you, the viewer. Come here. Look at me. Have you liked the video? If not, do me a favor. Hit that damn like button. It's not a request. It's a demand. And also, if you're new, say hello, say something. We'll like to give some acknowledgement, some love back to the chat. So, yeah, there you go. What
you said come here, so I was just obeying.
Nah, gotcha. All right, cool.
All right. Let us, so let's take a look here real quick. Then we'll get into a chart for us. If you want to have a Bitcoin chart pulled up, that's where we're going to go next. But I want to share this first from decrypt.co. Bitcoin price plunges as over $150 million in longs get wrecked. The video earlier today, we talked about the longs. It was around 150 million in 4 hours, 101 million in 1 hour, with over 98% of them being in longs. And we know the Bitcoin and crypto markets are very leveraged. So as the price points get taken out, liquidations, which brings us down lower, the next price points get liquidated, lower cascading effects, until we start seeing some equilibrium, buyers stepping in, pushing the price up. Could be due to a lot of things. One thing it could be due to is this $226 million of outflows yesterday from the ETF issuers, BlackRock being the only one that brought in any money, 18.2 million. Fidelity, 106 left the ETF for Fidelity, 9.8 million of outflows for Bitwise, 52 million for ARK, and 61 million for Grayscale, bringing our cumulative total again to $226 million of outflows. Outside of one day this week, we've had outflows, right? 64 million, 200 million. We had that 100 million inflow day 2 days ago. And then yesterday, 226 million of outflows.
Something just to keep in mind when we look at these ETFs and when it comes to the asset managers that operate these ETFs, it's not their personal position. It's not, hey, we decided to buy some Bitcoin. This is the market that trades through the New York Stock Exchange. So if we see these outflows, you see $200 million in outflows, and we went from, say, $69,000 Bitcoin or $68,000 Bitcoin, we're down to 65. If people are selling on Wall Street, then the ETFs have to, on the back end, go and sell as well, which is represented in these outflows. So when markets do take these natural pullbacks, we're going to see these outflows as well. So it's just a good indicator of not what retail is doing, but what institutions are doing and positioning on the price of Bitcoin. And so will we see a reversal soon? I think so, man. I genuinely believe that the institutions, the smart money, the big money, the whales that are buying Bitcoin through the ETFs are going to see value at the dropping price here. And I think that we will get a reversal pretty soon.
Of course, does the Bitcoin chart agree with Robin? What does that chart look like? And, if we do see more downside, how much further can we go?
Yeah, definitely. Let me share the screen here. Screen sharing. There we go. Let me can see this okay?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, so right now we're just chopping in a range, right? So if we exit this range, that's we need to be paying attention, right? So 59K is the bottom of our range, kind of this wick here. We had this deviation below and we reclaimed, got really bullish on that reclaim. Had a couple deviations above, right? And then a double top here towards the top of the range. Right now, what we're doing is we're testing the midpoint of our range, which honestly I thought we would do back when we were kind of pulling back here, right? And then we went up for another test of all-time high, almost all-time highs, but the top of the range, right? So now we're finally coming back and testing this midpoint, which, depending on how you draw the range, is going to be somewhere between $64,000 and $65,000, right? So that's what we really like for a really nice, healthy chart. That's what we want to see hold, right? We'd like to see a really clean retest of this, like we saw a test of this region over here. Yeah, we could get kind of sloppy here and maybe see some wicks down below it and then a recovery. I would personally just really like, for the sake of Bitcoin, the sake of the cleanliness of the chart, I would like to see this region hold here. So we could be very close to a bottom. You can see how much resistance was here. You can see we've just interacted with this midpoint as time has gone on. We reclaimed it, we back tested it, we held it, and then we moved up to the top of the range. So from a long-term perspective or a high time frame perspective, if we hold this range, we've essentially just made a really nice move up and come back down and made a higher low. So you'd have your kind of your low here, big move up, a big markup, and then a higher low, and that would really set us up for what would essentially a clean inverse head and shoulders, right? If you guys can see this okay, I'll do a highlighter, right? Yep. That would be your left shoulder, that would be your right shoulder, and this would be head rather, and this would be your right shoulder. That'd be a really, really clean retest and hold here. So we start trading down here. We do have a big levels that I've marked out in terms of just like margin pressure levels and where I'm not going to get into like the methodology there, but there's some big levels where buyers should theoretically, like on any sort of liquidations here, should theoretically step in these regions. And that's like 61.6. And really you've got kind of some confluence here at 63, right? So if you do see something all the way down to 63, that's where you could really get one of these like kind of V-shaped recoveries, one of these strong bounces. But overall, the region that we want to see, even if we come down to these levels, you want to see it reclaim and hold, and that's where you're looking to get long, right? That's where you're looking to get long. Realistically, you could bid here, right? I'm bullish. I think the entire market is heading higher over time. If you have a bullish thesis, coming in and bidding when altcoins are just getting wrecked like they are right now, not the worst idea in the world. You're never going to catch the absolute quickly. So bidding when we've been bleeding off and we feel pretty oversold, not a terrible idea in my opinion. If you want to be a little bit more conservative, I think you wait for a confirmation that this region has held and that we are starting to see a trend back, established back upwards. And then I do have a vertical line here. This is just something, and I'm not going to get into the methodology for this either, but it is just keep an eye on like next week, January or June 21st. June 21st could potentially be a date that is important, kind of an inflection point for a bottom or a reversal to come in. So I do think we could see over the next week, either a bottom form or a big move downwards, or continue this trend downwards into June 21st. But I think just if you can hold on for the next week, you'll probably see the tides turn a little bit back towards the upside, in my opinion. That is, of course, all speculative, but I'm really trying not to capitulate on anything over the next week or so.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Bitcoin on CMC here, Forrest. Looks like that 65K level is holding pretty strong. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Someone asked in the chat, they said, how come when we see big inflow days, we don't really see the price of Bitcoin move up that much, but we see when big outflow days, we see the Bitcoin price go down pretty quickly. I don't think we can point to it and say, yep, this is 100% the ETF, the reason it went up or the reason it went down. I think it's a lot of things. And again, if you're new to crypto, it's very leveraged. So people are essentially controlling $10,000 positions of Bitcoin with $100 or $1,000. And so their liquidation points are a lot tighter. And once those levels get hit, people get liquidated, causing the price to go down further, again, cascading liquidations. And so
we are right there at this mark here, 65,100. And, we're going to see, like, will this hold? I'm curious if the viewer here thinks that 65K will hold for the duration of the show for the next 35 minutes. What do you guys think? Where's the direction of the market going? Are we going to see 64,000 by the end of the show within the next 40 minutes? Put a 1 in the chat if you think we're headed that way. Put a 2 in the chat if you think 65K is kind of the local bottom here. And not to try to stir any fear or kind of overblow things. If we do get down to 64K, not a big deal. Still within the expected ranges of a pullback. And so, not to freak anybody out, 64K wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I want to know, where do you think the price will be? Will we go that far down in the next 40 minutes?
I'm just taking a peek at the overall markets. So we're red across the board. So we're red in the Dow Jones. We're down 118 points. We're red in the S&P, down 7 points. NASDAQ is green, but we can call that flat. It is a less than 0.04% gain. So flat across the board. The dollar is rallying, though. We covered that in the earlier video this morning. And so we typically see when the dollar rallies against other foreign currencies, risk on assets tend to bleed off, which includes Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But what you want to do in times of a price going down is you want to have identified a few projects or a few sectors that, hey, these are on sale. Rob mentioned AI. Meme coins are another one, right? People have made a lot of money on meme coins. And hey, maybe you watching, you didn't get a chance to get in on that meme coin at a $1 million market cap and ride it all the way up to 100 million. But you can still make some money on these meme coins, although they are very risky. I think we all agree on this panel here that meme coins are here to stay. We take a look at something like Dogecoin down 7%. I know you're pretty bullish on Dogecoin for us. That is at 13.2 cents. We're expecting some sort of payment integration on X with Elon Musk as he continues to get more money transmitter licenses across all 50 states in the United States. Something like SHIB, which had a market cap of around $40 billion, it is currently sitting at, I'm going to zoom out here really quick, currently sitting at $11.5 billion. So if this thing just gets back to its old market cap all-time high, which I'm not saying it will, you're a 4X away. You take a look at something like Pepe, $4.4 billion. Dog with Hat. Then you start getting into the political meme coins, right? The leading one here is the Trump coin. With the election coming by in the next 4 to 5 months, we have the first debate on June 27th. Could this be a sector that you want to try to front run? But Forrest, what's your kind of thoughts on what I'm going here? And with these dips, what are some opportunities for people, or what's your, do you have a game plan when you see dips like this, especially in bull markets? Do you view them as sectors? Do you view them as, hey, the market cap dropped by X percentage? What do you keep your eye on during these dips to maybe add to positions or enter long trades?
Yeah, so for me, there's only like 3 trades that I see and have entered as like high confidence trades in crypto right now. The first one that I'm not necessarily super exposed to right now that I'm looking for entry point is Ethereum and ETH beta, and ETH beta in probably the form of ETH based meme coins. So I think the ETH ETF trade is just a layup, right? Like we saw the same thing play out with Bitcoin. ETH is getting an ETF. It's going to go live, I think, like late July or something. So any like dips you can buy on ETH and like ETH-based meme coins, I think make a lot of sense. So that would be Pepe, Trump, and Shiba Inu. And then the other trade is Dogecoin. Like Dogecoin, I'm very confident is going to get an ETF. Raoul Pal and Arthur Hayes said that they're very confident as well. They're working on it behind the scenes, according to Arthur Hayes. So I think a Dogecoin ETF filing just sends it through the roof. Yeah, you have to deal with like drawdown and volatility in the meantime, and like everything else might pump and Doge might go sideways. But as soon as that headline comes out, it's probably going to pump really, really hard. So that's a high confidence trade for me. And then I think the best trade in all of crypto right now is Trump token. I think, like, regardless of what happens come election time, people are just going to pile into that thing. And that's been the thesis for like the last year on it. But and also, if like you look at the meme coin section, like you just were, the only coin in like the top 30 meme coins that's up in the past week is Trump token. Like people aren't selling it because the election's so, quickly coming up. So those are the 3 trades that I'm looking at. So yeah, if I can pick up some ETH or ETH based beta here on this dip, that's where my mind is at. Otherwise, I'm already pretty exposed to Trump and Doge.
I did want to say that there was a good amount of ones in the chat earlier, so I do think the sentiment is that we might go down and test the 65 on the other end of the 65, be down in 64. At least that's the sentiment of the viewers. I did see a few new faces here. We have UX, AI, Nars G, Kyle Fields, Mo Buds, Z Photo, Geralt, John White, Dutang, Warren McCarty, in jail out soon. Interesting. John Kettle, Handyman, Guy DeFoss, who says hello from Belgium. Tesla Man, El Thorough, Patrick B, Stoneheart. Also, $5 super chat from Alex O earlier. Big shout out to you.
Canadian dollars.
And so, to all of you that are new, all of you that I named, hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto. And in the nick of time, we have Broke Yoshi dropping 10 gifted memberships as well. So a big shout out to you there.
Now, Forrest, you mentioned the Ethereum play, and this is something I'm also looking at. And so just take a look at this headline, just the headline, right? ETH exchange balances hit 8-year low as investors prepare for rally. Investors have pulled over 4.1 million ETH roughly worth $40 billion from exchanges in the last 10 days. This is a quote from Ryan Lee, the chief analyst at BitGet Research. Both retail and institutional investors believe the spot ETH ETF approval will trigger massive demand for Ethereum. This explains the proactive accumulation of over 4.1 million Ethereum tokens on trading platforms, a trend I don't expect to slow down until months after the S1 registrations are approved, essentially making the ETFs go live. So you have people front running the ETH ETF. As Forrest mentioned, you have the meme coin meta, right? You also have something people don't talk about when they discuss real world asset tokenization, RWAs, talk about BlackRock, Ondo Finance. Guys, what is the one chain that BlackRock has actually partnered with and put money on? That is Ethereum, right? And so we know Ethereum, in times of high transaction and a lot of things happening on the network, it becomes deflationary. So less is minted or less is printed than what is being sold. And so you have the supply and demand thing we talk about all the time with Bitcoin and everything else. Same thing with Ethereum. Now you have the sell pressure of, hey, this thing is on an exchange. I can just click sell. I'm out of ETH versus it's offline on a hardware wallet. If I want to sell it, I got to go log in, send it here, go in there. So it's more of a barrier for people to not sell. Of course, at the end of the day, if they want to sell, they can just go in and take those steps and do it. But it's a lot less easier to do that when it's on a cold storage or offline versus one click and you sell it. So something to keep an eye on. Plus, as everyone mentioned, and we talked about the ETF, it's only going to create more buying pressure for Ethereum. And you don't have the sell pressure from miners like you do with the Bitcoin ETF. And we showed this on the show yesterday or 2 days ago. Miners are continuing to sell, although the mined Bitcoin per block per day is down from 900 to 450. We're still seeing those miners sell it. And also they have reserves of Bitcoin that they're selling as well. It's only a matter of time before we get into a reversal. And then we'll keep checking the price of Bitcoin here. See if this thing does dip below 65. It's currently at $65,300. So this is all in the ebbs and flows of the markets. But we do expect the price to continue to go up over time. It's just par for the course historically post-halving what we're seeing from Bitcoin. I want to ask you guys this question. At this point in time, with Bitcoin being at 65.3 and Ethereum being at 33.84, which is a better buy and hold over the next 6 months? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? Robin,
I got to go Ethereum, man. You cannot short sell the ETF and liquidity. We saw what happened. Bitcoin literally went from 40,000 up to a new all-time high above 74,000 in less than, was it 6 months now? How long has we been? About 5-6 months? But we eclipsed the all-time high just 3 to 4 months after the ETS went live. And, we're about to see the same surge of liquidity come into Ethereum. Will there be some downside pressure coming in from the Grayscale Trust and the Ethereum? And perhaps some people, and trying to sell the news, right? And that could happen. We could see a short-term price correction on Ethereum. Maybe it underperforms people's expectations in the short term. But I have to think that all of this new liquidity, all of the new investors that want to come in, buy Ethereum or diversify their crypto position, at least in the stock market world, have got to be putting in a position on Ethereum, which is going to create some upward price action. Not to mention Ethereum, when transaction volumes are high, does become deflationary. So, even Bitcoin does mint new Bitcoins every 10 minutes or every 8 minutes when there's a new block mined. Ethereum, when traffic is high, well, it doesn't even produce that. And then you take the sell pressure, the supply shock, the new liquidity. I cannot fade Ethereum within the next 6 months. I cannot do it, especially the ETF coming around the corner. And I think it's just such a good play. The downside risk is so minimal when it comes to Ethereum. I mean, how far down can Ethereum go? $3,000? Maybe it hits 2,900. Sure, that's not anything that you would want to have a position on if you bought right now. But realistically, it's not going to fall dramatically. You're not going to see a 50% dip in Ethereum, at least not in the next calendar year, 18 months. But the upside potential on such a big project it outweighs the risk. The risk return on Ethereum moving forward with the ETF, I can't fade it, man. I can't fade it. Nothing against Bitcoin, but at this position, we know how hard the alts run in the bull market post-halving. And you know what? Ethereum shocked the world back in 2020. It was at $100, man. It was at $100. One of the strongest performing assets last bull market. Got well over $4,000. And you know what? I think we're going to get a big run up in Ethereum. Mark my words. I'm taking a position on Ethereum. Less DCA on Bitcoin right now, more DCA on ETH. ETF is going to melt faces.
So yeah, $130 for ETH. I mean, we take a look at the Ethereum chart here on the weekly. March of 2020, Ethereum was right around $88, and the rally we saw, a 5,500% increase in the price of Ethereum. Do we think ETH will do that this cycle? I don't think so. What will be the next ETH to do that this cycle? Is it Solana, right? From the low of what, $9, $10? Can it do a 55x? Can it do a 60x? What is that, $600?
Yeah.
Right? Can it do that? Maybe. But I want to ask Forrest the same question. Forrest, what is a better hold for the next 6 months right now? Is it Bitcoin at current prices or Ethereum at current prices?
Ethereum, and it's not even close in my opinion.
Not even close?
Not even remotely close. Like,
my man.
On top of everything Robin said, like, you've got to take into account the fact, like, Bitcoin's had its ETF moment, and like most of the people who have wanted to take a position in Bitcoin's ETF, like right off the bat, have already done so, right? Ethereum has not had that initial burst of liquidity into its ETF yet until it goes live. The other thing is there's a $10 billion distribution, Mt. Gox distribution of Bitcoin coming out, right? So a lot of that Bitcoin is going to get sold for dollars, but some of it's going to get sold for ETH, right? Like some people are going to get that Bitcoin and they're going to be like, oh, I got to diversify. They might, sell 50% of it and keep 50% of it in Bitcoin. But the net flows of that, it's like there's no Mt. Gox ETH distribution. So there's going to, from Mt. Gox specifically, there will be 0 ETH sold for Bitcoin. But there will be some of that $10 billion worth of Bitcoin sold for ETH. Maybe 5% of it, 3% of it, 20%, who knows? But it will be some addition. It'll insignificant too. Like even if 5% of that $10 billion is in Bitcoin is sold directly for ETH, that's $500 million coming out of Bitcoin and going directly into Ethereum. So you have to factor that in as well. And the deadline on that's like October 31st, I believe. So everything is stacked in favor for Ethereum versus Bitcoin in the next 6 months, or call it the rest of the year. We'll just say.
I did just do a poll. So same question. I'm curious what the chat thinks. I will agree with both of you, but Forrest, I disagree that it's not even close. You take a look at what Bitcoin has done, and we always talk about these institutions coming in. When the ETF goes live, they're not just going to jeet into ETH and say, oh, here's a $10 billion like they did with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been around for long. People are still having a hard time understanding what even Ethereum is or does. We understand it because we follow it. But the average investor, we're over here having polls on Twitter about how would you describe Ethereum? And we're seeing articles from Fidelity and BlackRock. And, well, Ethereum's kind of like digital gold or digital oil, and it's does this and so it's a lot harder to explain to people what you're investing in versus Bitcoin. Digital gold, hedge against inflation.
But when you look at markets though, and you look at charts and you look at value, you don't need to understand the underlying asset. You don't need to understand how NVIDIA's AI works. You don't need to understand how their computer chips work. You don't need to understand which is the next coming graphic card. You just know that, hey, they're at the forefront of AI and computer chips,
but
they lead that sector.
That's not true, though.
And here you don't need to understand how Ethereum works to understand that there's value from a market perspective.
But it's not about understanding how it works. I look at NVIDIA, I see the project, I say, oh, they're a chip maker. What's in chips? cars, computers,
Okay, so
AI, everything.
what makes Nvidia different than the
Investors.
Intel?
Okay,
I'm just saying from a chip perspective, what makes them different?
that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because that's exactly what I'm saying.
But what does matter is these people that get large positions on these companies like Nvidia, they can look at fundamentals. They do fundamental analysis. They look at, okay, what is the earnings per share? Is it overvalued? Is it undervalued? How much revenue have they brought in? They don't know how to look at those numbers.
You're talking
on
about
crypto.
everything you just mentioned was price related. You know, like
Yeah, but that's how they know if it's under or overvalued.
They can look at historical numbers on Ethereum. They can say like, hey, this blockchain has been around since 2015. It's grown in market cap. It's, you know, it's deflationary. You can go down the list. Everything that you mentioned was related to price. So from a market perspective, people that have made money on Bitcoin, the traders, the institutions, they're looking at, hey, Ethereum has longevity. It has been here, and I can get a return on investment. I don't need to know how the whole thing needs to work. I don't need to have take a course on blockchain at MIT. I don't need any of that. I just know that, hey, this has been around for a while. It's growing. Its market cap is also growing, and a lot of people respect it. The smart money out here is putting a position on Ethereum. I don't give a damn how it works. I know I want exposure to it. And that is just how Wall Street works. People are not just simply investing in Apple and in Microsoft because they use those two products. A lot of these of Wall Street, these portfolios are built off of a diversity of different companies that they might not know a lot about. But they see the value in the market. They see that, hey, this is somebody that's well respected in pharmaceuticals. I don't need to know anything about, I don't need to be a doctor. I don't need to be a physician. I don't need to be a pharmacist to know that, hey, this pill here, it's getting a lot of attention. This company's growing, and there's a lot of buzz and demand for that product. I don't need to know how this pill happens to be different than another. Same thing with technology. You don't need to understand how it works. You just need to understand that the market respects it. The charts are moving in the right direction. And so that is the difference between crypto and Wall Street. Wall Street doesn't need to actively use it to invest in it. Wall Street can just say, hey, I can make some damn money on this thing. It's the leader in that sector.
I partially disagree with you. I think the people that are deploying billions of dollars, they don't just say, "Oh, cool, ETH's been around for a while."
The people that are deploying billions of dollars, yes, they're researching 100%. I'm not saying that they're not.
Okay, so then,
but they're smart enough people. If you're going to invest $1 billion into, it doesn't matter, replace company, replace venture capital. If you're investing $1 billion, there is somebody there that knows blockchain. I'm sorry. If you're going to invest $1 billion into a pharmaceutical company, you're gonna have some expert that comes in and be like, hey man, you know what? This new patent they have, or this new copyright, or whatever it is, they know what they're doing. This stands out. It's an outlier. But now when you say people are investing that don't know anything about the chain, they're not gonna invest $1 billion. You're not gonna have someone leveraging that much money without having experts on hand, right? So when you talk about that money, if you're gonna put a position, you're gonna call up the experts. If you're in lodging and housing and you're looking at the new Airbnb competition, you know nothing about it, you're gonna bring in the experts. If you want to take a position on Ethereum, you don't need to be like, well, I don't understand the technology, so we're not going to do it. No, you're going to be like, hey, man, we want to invest in Ethereum. Who's the expert in this? Bring them in, dial up this person, whatever it is, Mike Novogratz, put him on the phone. I want to know, like, is this a good time to enter?
Forrest, do you have anything you want to add to this conversation here? I think you're muted, Forrest. Forrest, you got to unmute your mic.
Sorry, I had a crying baby earlier. I didn't want to had to mute. Yeah, I just look at everything the way things like Bitcoin's 3 times the market cap of the ETH. So like 3 times for them to go up the same amount, like, or for Bitcoin to outperform ETH, like 3 times the amount of money has to go into Bitcoin versus ETH, right? And it's actually probably like closer to 4 or 5 times when you take into account that Ethereum doesn't have any miner sell pressure and Bitcoin does. Like one of the big reasons I think we've been ranging for so long post halving is because like miners are just selling Bitcoin. right? They had their revenue slashed in half by 50%. They've got to sell off some of their reserves to stay afloat. Just on the off chance that the market does turn downwards, they've got to make money. I just don't see any way that Bitcoin outperforms ETH in the rest of the year. I would bet and am going to bet significant amounts of money on it. Like I will trade the ETH Bitcoin chart, which I think looks amazingly bullish in favor of ETH. And I will put money on, I'll be long ETH, short Bitcoin. And I think that's a great trade in this market for the rest of the year.
Look, I don't think you can go wrong with either. But for me, again, I also agree that ETH, you probably make more money, but I don't think it's by a long shot. I think with the narrative we're seeing with Bitcoin, with people like Larry Fink and everyone else, I mean, it's full steam ahead with not only Bitcoin education, but onboarding people. We haven't even seen the biggest wave of people that are going to pile into Bitcoin. That's going to happen before they do ETH. I can promise you that. And so how high can the price go? $150,000, $250,000. I think this cycle, I think that the potential for that is there. I do want to share a video. Larry Fink, this man has become the mascot of blockchain technology. Listen to this 2-minute clip of one of the most influential people in the world when it comes to markets and money. Pretty much say, hey, you watching right now, you watching Sin City Crypto, you're in the right place at the right time. Listen to this. Oh, and I have to unmute my laptop. Give me 2 seconds. All right.
The IMF and the World Bank were created 80 years ago when banks, not markets, financed most things. Today, the financial world is flipped. The capital markets are the biggest source of private sector financing, and unlocking that money requires a different approach than the bank balance sheet model of yesterday. There's still a lot of work to be done, but reform over the past 8 months have resulted in billions of dollars of new dollars for the developing countries' infrastructure. That's what you saw last week with the announcement of the Investor Coalition. BlackRock, GIP, KKR, and other major firms will deploy $25 billion in Asia's emerging economies. In a way, it's an Indo-Pacific counterpoint to Italy's Mattei plan, which is helping African economies grow, and that's important. Every country in the world needs a growth strategy. But if I could convey one more important message today, it would be the countries that need growth most right now are not just emerging economies. Great economic powers, including the G7, are in fact on the list and need growth going forward. All of us are staring down a growth dilemma. Whether we solve it or not, it's a significant economic fork in the road for our countries. Today, the G7 average debt to GDP is 129%. No matter how much we tax, how much we cut or reduce that debt, it will not be enough. The only way we can achieve this future of growth is by truly growing out of it. But just growth is becoming more important because we need to be focusing on our fiscal health. It is also becoming much more difficult to achieve. Within 25 years, most of the G7 countries will be on demographic downslope. Working age population will decline. The ceiling on growth will get lower and lower. This is why building new infrastructure is critical, especially through public-private partnerships.
Bingo, building new infrastructure. And the last thing he said was especially private and public. And what is the one project that is bridging those two worlds together? Private, public. It is Chainlink. Very bullish. Now, I want to highlight a message from Stoneheart. He said, don't buy old dino coins, old narratives. Crypto is about hype and following the new narratives. I tend to agree with that statement. What are your thoughts, Robin? Are there any dino coins, right? Talk about the last cycle. You had Avalanche was around. Solana was around. Cardano was around. Polygon was around. You have new cycle coins, Toncoin, Near Protocol, some of the other big ones, Caspa, right? What are your thoughts on finding those projects, the ones that have been around? At what point does longevity become a nuisance for making money in crypto?
All right, let's take a quick peek at the historical snapshot here. If you think that what was last cycle going to come back, this is November 2019. Take a look at the top 10 list here. You had Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP was third. Now, at its a brief point in time, you did have XRP flip Ethereum at number 2 on market cap. I know that was kind of crazy to think about, but you had Bitcoin Cash at number 5, Litecoin at 6, EOS at 8, Bitcoin SV at 9, Stellar Lumens at 10. You can see that the top projects just 5 years ago, I mean, about 50% of them have fallen out of this race, right? EOS is gone. Litecoin has just been bleeding off. Bitcoin Cash irrelevant. So is SV. And then you go down, there are some familiar faces. So, you're pretty much taking a 50-50 chance here because Neo gone, Monero not really a thing so much anymore. IOTA, Dash, that thing is put to bed. And so if you think that, hey, last cycle we were there, we had we're gonna cross all-time highs made by tokens. Well, hold your horses because history has said the opposite. And so I do think that a lot of tokens that we looked at last bull market that got new all-time highs or that made all-time highs are exactly that, all-time highs, and will never get crossed again, and it will slowly bleed off against the markets. So I say this, just because it was there before and it was hot, and you think it's going to come back because you're just saturated in the community and you're just, you won't open your eyes to outside perspective. Sad to say, but if you married a project, you're all in on some token that you bought last bull market and you're like, it's going to come back, and you don't open up your mind to think maybe it won't, you don't over leverage yourself on some of these alts. That's why a diversified portfolio where you say, hey, I think that this token is going to come back. I think it'll cross all-time highs. They've been developing. Maybe I have Binance Coin. I have Cardano. Maybe I have Chainlink. I have Litecoin. You just keep going down the list. And then just like in 2019, if you would have had a position in that 2019, these were all on discount too. So if you would have just said, hey, I'm going all in on this Neo. I think that's the one, man. Like Neo really hit hard back in 2017. I think it's going to rally back. If you would have went all in on that, you would have been sadly disappointed, outgained by damn near everything. And if you would have said, hey, you know what? I think this Neo, I think this has got something. I think Chainlink's got something going on. And let me get a position on Ethereum. You would have taken an L on Neo and you would have absolutely crushed it on Chainlink and ETH as an example. And so if you're sitting here and you're marrying everything to Gala and you're like, you know what, I'm going all in on Gala, not going to buy anything else that's going to come back. I'm going all in on Sandbox, I'm going all in on Decentraland. Like you need to have a diversified portfolio when it comes to things outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Don't put all your eggs in one basket because you might get burned. History has told you so, and it will come back. But yeah,
I think for me, if you are going to put money into last cycle or previous cycle projects, you want to look at what is their market dominance currently, who is nipping at the heel, right? So let's take, for example, Ethereum, right? You have Ethereum that's had a vast market share over liquidity, over dApps, over their EVM, over pretty much everything related to coins, projects, NFT, smart contracts. And along comes Solana, who took some of that market share away. Now, what puts ETH ahead of Solana currently for you to say, hey, I want to take a position in Ethereum? I'm only using this as an example. Well, you got one, it's still the most secure, longest lasting, has longevity, has the biggest developer team, was the OG smart contract platform, and is the one that institutions who are looking to onboard the RWA, right? Tokenization of assets, they're using Ethereum. Take a look at something like Chainlink, right? Oracle service. What is it doing now that it wasn't doing 3 years ago, and that other companies, other projects are either maybe they're doing, but they are going to have a hard time catching up, or it's going to take too long to catch up. That's another one. But if you take a look at something like, I don't know, throw Litecoin out there. Why was Litecoin hot, right? better alternative to Bitcoin, the silver to Bitcoin's gold, faster transactions. Well, guess what? There's projects in this cycle that do what Litecoin was doing back then with no competition, but better. And so you got to look at it. Litecoin, new project that's doing it better. And that is where you need to draw the line, at least for myself. I'm curious to see what you think, Forrest, comparing the Dino coins, right, to the new narrative, the new cycle. What's your thesis around that? And is it, do you, as the cycles continue, do you drop more of the older coins and add new coins? Or what's your thesis on that?
Yeah, like if a coin has a narrative, I don't necessarily care how old it is. Having a little bit of age is sometimes nice because you have a chart to go off of and you've got some price action, like versus a coin that's like, 20 days old or something. A little bit more difficult to chart, a little more volatile. But for me, it doesn't matter. Like bull markets, like you want to trade based off of attention. So you want to look at like where the stories are and where the narratives are. So I believe we're in a bull market right now. I think that's fairly undeniable based on stock price action as well as Bitcoin price action over the last year. So I want to trade based off of attention. What are the narratives? The narratives are ETFs, meme coins, AI, real world assets, and Politify, like the election, right? I think those are the biggest stories, and those are going to capture the most attention. Like in a bull market, assets trade based off of attention, right? They don't necessarily trade off of fundamentals. Right? We see the market got stupidly bullish on metaverse last, I never really was a big fan of metaverse, and even like blockchain gaming is a narrative that's already fizzled out. Like the fundamentals, in my opinion, for a while, the blockchain, we haven't had like a hit blockchain Web3 game that's really like taken off and like done extraordinarily well this cycle. In a bear market, conversely, you want to be actually paying attention, in my opinion, to the fundamentals and the tech, right? So like in the bear market, like what was leading in tech, what was leading in fundamentals is like very clearly, in my opinion, Solana, like, and they were also kind of leading in attention. Like, even though we were in a bear market, there was like this huge, like everyone was focused on, or everyone was paying attention to Solana. Even when it was crashing, everyone on Twitter was like, I told you soing. And like, all they were like, no one was talking about Cardano and Algorand in the bear market. Like that just was, you go on Twitter, like you look at the numbers, just no one was talking about it. They were crashing too. But when everything was crashing, like people were talking about Solana. So like in a bear market, you want to pay attention to the fundamentals and who's leading in tech, and also a little bit of attention. But I think in a bull market, most of that goes out the window. You want to be trading based off of almost entirely attention. And that's why meme coins have done so well, because they have like this really fast attention cycle and they pump super hard, and that's what people end up chasing. So there's tons of projects right now that have excellent fundamentals that just they're getting no attention right now, and their price reflects that.
I want to share this with you. I want to share, where did it go? Right here. And so this headline article here, Coinbase claims the Fed could surprisingly cut interest rates aggressively, stating it would benefit cryptocurrencies. And I want to share this. If you guys remember, prior to the SEC approving these Ethereum spot ETFs, we had a news article come out, and this was prior to the approval. Coinbase says market underestimating timing and odds of spot Ethereum ETF approval. This came out at a time where everyone was very bearish, us included. We was like, there's no way, they're not going to approve it. No communications, nothing like what happened in Bitcoin. I think Rob was the only one that was slightly more bullish on a potential approval. I was like, they're not going to do it, right? And Coinbase came out with a report and said, yeah, people are kind of underestimating it. 2 days later, they approved the ETFs. Now we're seeing the same people say the Fed could surprisingly cut interest rates aggressively. We still have about 3 or 4 meetings this year. We have an election year. Could this be the massive catalyst, Robin, that could send Bitcoin to $150,000, $200,000, that can send the altcoin markets skyrocketing? Is this the answer here?
What would be interesting is that I think we all expect that when a rate cut does come, and we're expecting one this year, that it would be 0.25%, right?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of the conclusion, right? But remember, that's not a guarantee. And I know this is an outlier, and I know this was a very unique situation. But when we had COVID pandemonium here in 2020, we went from a few basis points, or I think it was like 2 point something or 3%. I don't remember exactly what the interest rate was set at prior to COVID pandemonium, but we went straight to zero. We went all the way right down to zero. We didn't hit no pit stops on the way down. It went right to zero. And could we find ourselves in a situation where, hey, maybe there's a political landscape where the sitting president wants to get reelected and wants to kind of put some euphoria into the economy or the markets because, well, he's trailing in all the polls, and maybe he puts pressure on the Fed to cut rates aggressively, quote unquote. Could we see a 0.5%, maybe a full percent rate cut? I mean, is it out of the realm of possibility to go 5% to 4%? I don't think it's that crazy. Now, the CME, the markets don't expect it, or maybe there's some kind of outside geopolitical influence that puts strain on the markets that really, pushes the Fed to be aggressive. I think something like that could be. And I think we might look, forward 2 months from now, 3 months from now, and say, hey, nobody saw this altercation between China and Taiwan, and the markets, the strain that put on the markets with computer chips and AI, and the markets
they'll find a
crashing.
reason. They'll find a reason.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is that so? To simply think that, hey, at some point this year, we're going to get a 0.25% rate cut. Maybe it's 1.25%. Maybe it's 0.5%. Maybe it's 2%. I mean, it sounds crazy now, but it also sounded crazy in 2020 when we went to straight zero. And so would this shock me? No. Would it shock the markets? Yes. Would it put some massive buy pressure on cryptocurrency and speculative stock markets? And yes, 100%. And so nothing would surprise me when it comes from the Fed, and especially going into an election year where someone wants to get reelected and the economy might not be as strong as someone would like to garner more votes. And so maybe Coinbase is onto something, at least.
Their track record,
opening up a thought experiment, right?
Track record is good. And I'm taking a look at the CME. So this is what markets are expecting. 15% believe we'll get a rate cut on July 31st. This number has, at least over the past few months, been over 99% that the Fed's going to hold the rate steady. Forrest, I want to get your thoughts on that headline article I shared. Coinbase saying we're going to see aggressive rate cuts. And what do you think that's going to spell out for crypto and the Bitcoin markets?
So on whether or not rate cuts are bullish or bearish, it really depends, in my opinion, on why the Fed's cutting rates. Are they cutting rates because they've done a great job at handling inflation, and inflation's coming down, and they want to make sure that inflation stays above that 2% target, avoiding deflation, and everything's healthy and happy and great? Or are they cutting rates because everything's falling apart, unemployment's skyrocketing, we're in a recession, and they're trying to avoid too hard of a recession? If they prematurely cut rates, I think they'll probably we'll probably see a pretty big pump in markets that could come back to haunt us later on. But from a political positioning standpoint, I think Robin's right. Like, I think also you have to consider, like, this administration, like, even if they lose the election, which it looks like they're trailing pretty hard. Like, they want to pump the markets to make it more likely that they win the election, right? But they also want to pump the markets because in the event that they lose the election, if I checked this morning, it could have gotten, it was just like a cursory measurement, but I'm pretty sure like the Nasdaq's up 20% this year. And keep in mind, like, the stock market historically averages like 7 to 10%. Like, already this year, halfway through the year, up 20%. Imagine they drive the stock market up another 20%. There's not a lot, like, that's such a massive amount to stuff into 1 year, that if Donald Trump wins, right, and becomes president in 2025, like you're coming off a 40% year or, a massive year. There's not a lot of more room to go up for Trump to pump markets, right? So you kind of like handicap your opponent in the event that they win if you've already pumped markets and squeezed everything you can out of them, and then all of a sudden they look bad when they step in, and you can start positioning yourself for the next election. So I think either way you cut it, like this administration definitely wants to cut rates.
You put up an interesting thought. Are they pumping a bubble and trying to set up a scenario where the markets are overheated? It could technically crash. I mean, I know you're saying that simply, hey, there's not much more room or more gas to spur economic, to get the gains, basically get the gains prior to the election, give it to Donald Trump. There's only so much more he could squeeze out of it because, we've already cut rates and the economy's already, crushing it. But to expand on what you're saying, maybe they create an environment where we produce a bubble right in the markets and we hand it over to Donald
brother
Trump.
We're already in a bubble.
Kind of like, no, but when I say but like really push that thing up like a game of hot potato or whatever it is, or the musical chairs, like, hey, you know what, here, your turn, take that, like we got it real close to you for the bubble to pop. So enjoy managing that one. And in doing so, they create an environment where it looks favorable for them in the polls because the economy is rallying, right? And so, I don't know, man. I just think that the next 4 months are going to be very interesting. And I think that regardless of what happens with the markets, crypto is in a very good position because crypto is one of the main topics that is going to be debated. It seems to be a counterpoint between the candidates, right? And so when you have something that one person has a hardline stance versus the other, which doesn't have that same ideology, it's going to be a question, right? Because if you're a moderator at one of these debates and you want to get these two people to argue, you get a topic that they don't really line up on, right? You're going to have immigration as one. Biden, he might be not as aggressive as Trump. And that they stand on different moral values on how to handle it. And so, the moderators are going to ask questions about that topic because they know it's going to drive for good responses. And so if Biden is over here vetoing crypto bills, and then Trump is over here saying, hey, let's bring Bitcoin mining to America, American-made Bitcoin, and hey, you're for crypto, vote for me, that it's going to create, good content. And these debates are exactly that. And so I just don't see a scenario that going into this election that is going to be negative for crypto because there's going to be a ton of press. And you know what? Biden sounds like doesn't want to go against crypto. And so you're going to put a lot of questions on him like, hey, why'd you veto this? Like at a debate, like ask you a question like, hey, why did you veto this damn bill, Biden? Like, why is the SEC and your chair appointed Gary Gensler, why are they going after and suing every freaking crypto company? Like, why did you shut down Signature Bank? Like, these questions I'm sure are going to arise and they're going to turn the heat up on dude, right? And so I'm very excited to see how this is going to turn out. And I think that if you're in crypto right now, you're in a good spot. DC any of your favorite projects because this market's about to take off, man.
Gentlemen, we have Bitcoin is at $65,500. Where do you see Bitcoin at coming into the new week, Monday morning? The market's open. Where is Bitcoin? What's your thoughts? What's your sentiment? Forrest, I'll start with you first.
66. I think we got maybe another week of choppy price action. Who knows? It might be 64, 65, somewhere around this region. I'm looking for a bottom to kind of carve itself out over the next week or so. Hopefully sooner, but I think another week or so of this dreadful chop.
Typically weekends, the rest of the markets are closed. So where do investors and traders trade in? Well, it's a crypto market, and typically coming into the new week, we do see a little bit of volatility towards the end of the weekend, coming into the week. So you're pretty much thinking we're going to be range bound. What about you, Robin? What do you see the price of Bitcoin in the market being coming into the new week?
I think we make up a little ground, kind of hang out where we were. We took a look at that 1 month chart. 65K was kind of a bottom there over the last 30 days. And I think that 65K does hold its support. So I would say 68,000, I think, is where we're going to be at, 68.5 come Monday.
So you see a little bit of a rally.
Yeah, a little bit of rally, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Forrest on this one. I think we are going to see a little bit of a choppy weekend. Maybe like my best case scenario would be 67.5, but there's a ton of resistance there. Potentially get rejected there. But would I be surprised if we came in at 62, 63,000 on Monday? Absolutely not. But this is the thing with markets is there is absolutely no reason to panic when prices go down as long as everything fundamentally has not changed. This is just buying, selling, trading, liquidations, whatever's going on in the markets. Typically, is what markets do. Nothing new, right? Crypto is not revolutionary in terms of how people trade, right? In fact, you get probably more leverage that makes the price more volatile, especially with a new asset. So something to keep in mind. But again, during market cycles, during a bear market, you want to really study, take your time, identify projects that you think have a lot of potential going to the new market. And during the bull markets, you want to really buckle down and I have projects identified, say, hey, look, if this gets a 10, 20, 30% drawdown, I want to add to my position. I want to enter a position. You don't want to buy when the markets are on fire. You want to wait for the thing to slow down. Get these pullbacks like you are seeing right now, 65,470, and start to enter positions there, not when the markets are on fire. So with that being said, guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you subscribe.
I got one more video, man. I got one more video. All right. So this is in case you've never seen what a tier looks like under the microscope.
Wow.
Here we go. So you take the tier, you put it on put it on the microscope, and well, there it is. That's what it looks like, and you zoom in, and so
wow. You know, in honor of Rocco not being here, I saw this. See this picture. So this, on the right is Italian Prime Minister. On the left is the British Prime Minister. Someone said Italians malfunction if you prevent their hands from moving. That was funny. Anyways, that'll do it for the show today. If you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed Forrest's content, definitely go recommend you follow him on X at Sistine Research. Also, he does have a YouTube channel as well, Sistine Research. That is the handle there as well. And so any parting thoughts heading into the weekend, gentlemen? I'll start with you first, Forrest.
No, I think, look, you could get some liquidations here. Market's leveraged. We're range bound. As long as you see Bitcoin over $59,000, I think we're in a okay shape. Is it uncomfortable? Yeah, but I think we got to wait at least another week, maybe another month even, to get through the summer, get towards some catalyst with this ETH ETF. But really have a good feeling about being able to wait it out another week to 4 weeks and see some positive upside here. So just hang in there, tough. Don't get over leveraged.
Robin?
No, that's it, man. Yeah, it's the market. The markets are not crashing down. They're the same spot they were a month ago. Just calm down. Thank you.
What I'll say is, don't panic. It's going to be okay. That'll do it for the show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And with that being said, Ashley, thank you so much, you guys. We hope you enjoy the content. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Go follow us on X at Sin City Crypto 1. Have an amazing weekend, and we will see you Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, guys, have a good weekend.
Sin City Crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming, hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya, to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO